welcome back to my channel. This is Keep Flying. We're playing against Flip Flop Blop this time. Interesting Elishnorn avatar. So we win the die roll. We would always like to go first when given the option. Come on, there we go. Playing Yisan the Wanderer Bard today. Like I've said in previous videos, I really enjoy playing Yisan. It's a nice break from the mono blue, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. If you have suggestions for mono black or mono red, those are the next two that I'm thinking of building. I might actually build a red-green Rada Heir to Keld. I have a lot of the cards already, naturally, because they're in this deck. So it might be fun to build Rada. She's a very potent 1v1 commander, as I've played on this before. Also, if any of my subscribers or viewers want to jam some games with me, feel free to add me and send me a message online whenever you see me online. If I'm not recording a video, I'm usually up for a good 1v1 commander game. I also play Momir Basic every now and then if you guys want to play that against me. And I have a pauper list. It's not a good pauper list, but it was the first deck that I built here on MTG. So this hand's decent. I actually don't have Dryad Arbor in this deck yet, so Green Sun Zenith is not turn 1 ramp. So this actually makes me want to push this hand back, especially because I have a 6-drop, I have a 2-drop that isn't good against my opponent. I'll cover them in a sec. Ice Storm is pretty decent, but seeing as I'm playing against Green Super Ramp, if he doesn't stumble on mana, Ice Storm becomes much worse. Heartwood Storyteller, I'm not against the blue deck, so Heartwood's basically a vanilla 2-3. And Deglamour does deal with the commander, potentially, but I just think this hand's way too slow to be able to keep. So I mulligan into a 0-lander. Now naturally, if this was a forest, this would definitely be a keep, because I could Utopia Sprawl it, try to get to 2 mana. But even then, it's iffy. I would have to draw another land, but I do get the Scry at this point. So I push it back. He keeps his 7, and I'm going to push down. Alright, so now I have Forest, Priest, and Sylvan Library. So this is definitely a keep. So as long as I can find one other land, I can try to get Sylvan Library or Priest of Titania down. Naturally, the library is going to be more powerful, because it's going to de-mulligan this hand almost immediately. And my Scry, well, that's a forest. I need that. Alright, so our opponent, before we go any further, is Sasaya Orochi Ascendant. Let me make this big. There we go. So it is a 2/3 for 3. Snake Monk, I believe. Yeah, Snake Monk. If you have 7 or more land, reveal your hand. If you have 7 or more land cards in it, it flips. And then when it flips, it is whenever a land you control is tapped for mana, each other land you control with the same name, add 1 mana of that mana type to your pool, or add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. So the correct way in thinking of Sayasa is that for each land you have, it gets multiplied by that amount. So if I have 5 forests when if my opponent would have 5 forests when Sayasa flips, each forest would produce 5 plus 1. Oh no, for each other land. So each forest would produce 5. So it'd be 5. So the way that Sayasa works is square the number of lands you control, and that's how much mana you can produce. So if you have 9 forests, each of your forests will produce 9 mana, and that would put you at 9 by 9 is 81. If you had 6 forests, 6 by 6 is 36, so you would produce 36 mana. So it actually squares by the amount of mana. It's a very potent commander in some builds. I definitely do not think it is one of the top tiers for mono green. You have lots of better options like 3 mana Omnath or Yisan, but it's a very good big mana green deck. Probably the more budget commander version of Nissa Vastwood Seer. That's the flip Nissa from Origins. So I keep this hand, and away we go. I got to win the roll, so my opponent's up to 8 cards. Okay, so I'm down 3 cards effectively now because I went first and I mulliganed twice. So, alright, I was expecting a Sol Ring off the turn 1 tap, but lo and behold, that's not the case. All I need to hope is he doesn't have a Naturalize effect, and Sylvan Library will take over the game. Sylvan Safekeeper, well that's fine. Makes me wonder why Sylvan Safekeeper didn't come down turn 1. It's plausible he might have cycled to be able to make sure that he hit a land, or he just drew the Sylvan Safekeeper off the cycling, or the draw for turn. So, alright, so I see Strip Mine, not very good. I'm not really cutting him off mana. If I had seen like Forest non-basic, cutting the Forest does make a lot of sense there. I would love to use Sylvan Library, and here I'm going to take the obligatory 8 damage. So now I've drawn 2 additional cards over the course of the game, and I've effectively caught up with my opponent, with the exception of 1 card. So they have 6 and 3 in play. I have 6, 3 cards in play, but they've seen 1 deeper into their deck. They're 89 to my 90. So I'm in an excellent spot here. So here I decided to go with the Priest instead of Yisan. My goal in doing this is I want to be able to deploy Oracle of Moldiah next turn without having to play a land. So that way if I see 2 lands off Sylvan Library, I can put them back on top, because keep in mind, Oracle lets me play them from the top. So I could effectively play both of the lands from the top of my library without having to pay the life with them, where they would just end up in my hand and played anyway. So Oracle lets me dig without paying too much life. So by playing Priest of Titania, as long as all my stuff sticks around, I'm going to have 4 mana before playing a Strip Mine or another land. Because ideally I'd like to be able to play 2 lands off the top. And the opponent goes with Crucible of Worlds. Alright, so they played a land that turn. I'm really not a fan of playing Crucible of Worlds when you can't immediately utilize it, but it's possible he doesn't have another land. So I see a Forest, and Viridian Corruptor and Nykthos. Well, that is 2 lands, so they are both going to go back on top. And here comes Oracle, and I play my 2 lands, revealing that Ice Storm that was in the opener. Well, not very good against Crucible of Worlds, but I have a Viridian Corruptor, and that's going to do wonders for dealing with that Crucible. So, replays the Thicket, and a no-value Life from the Loam. And I don't know if I like this or not. Because he had the mana to cast Life from the Loam, cycle Tranquil Thicket, re-get the Life from the Loam, and then replay Tranquil Thicket. So if you see, 2 mana, Life from the Loam, get back the Thicket, then pay 1, cycle the Thicket, dredge the Life from the Loam, or just draw a card, and then play the Thicket from the graveyard. But by doing it this way, he's effectively down 1 card. He could have done 1 higher. And it's a very obscure line, but when you're playing against an opponent with Sylvan Library and Oracle, and so much mana, I think you just have to try to optimize your plays as best as you can. I don't know if the dredge or the draw is correct off that cycle, but it's definitely correct to use that cycle then if he's not trying to bluff something. Alright, I see a land, and Eternal Witness is on top, so there's no sense in taking the 8 just to play additional lands and dig even deeper. 2 forests back on top. I'm going to play both of them. And here I do some thinking. So, Yisan comes into play. I figured that Yisan would be the correct play here because I can start actually going to get value and moving up the chain. But with how much mana I have, my plan is to just use Yisan and go straight for the combo as quickly as possible. I already have Priest in play, meaning I can get the Script Ranger or any other 2-drop that I feel is necessary, maybe even Elvish Visionary just to get a little bit more card advantage. But because I already have one piece of the combo, Yisan becomes so much easier to use. So I do my Nykthos check. I'm going to get 4 mana out of it. And here's a Viridian Corruptor, so I'm going to deal with that Crucible here. And I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana off Nykthos here. So not quite Yeah, it's enough to deploy everything, but I'm definitely not going to be burning my Back to Nature and blowing up my library. So I plan on just using Yeva on his end step. So he dredges, hit Homeward Summer Bloom, Homeward Path, and a Forest. That's fine with me. So he's gonna get them back. Ooh, sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. Alright, so he played that and then cast Sayasa. I jumped ahead in my turn. My bad. On his end step, I deployed Yeva's Nature Herald off my Nykthos, and that's it. My elf count is now 4 already, because this is an elf, and the newest addition to the deck as well. So, Sylvan Library. Alright, so I see Terastodon on top, and, Survival. Well, I'll take another obligatory 8 there, because there's no lands to put back and then replay with Oracle. And I really don't want to shuffle either of these away with Yisan, essentially because Survival guarantees that even if Yisan disappears, I can still assemble the win condition on his end step with Yeva in play, and then deploy it on his end step and untap and immediately win. And Terastodon, I have enough mana. The Crucible has been dealt with, so here comes the beats. So I play the Strip Mine, and I think for a bit. Deploy Survival first. It's going to effectively only cost me 1 mana because Nykthos, it adds 1 to the Nykthos count. And I'm going to Yisan. So I have choices here. I could definitely get the Quirion Ranger and use it to untap Yisan, Bouncing Forest, replaying the Forest, because I haven't used any land drops yet from the Oracle. Or I could get Sylvan Safekeeper just to make sure my stuff sticks around, or Wirewood Symbiote. I decided to go with the Symbiote because I can, if I need to bounce any elf, I can bounce it, like the Viridian Corruptor, to untap Yisan and immediately redeploy the Corruptor because I have Yeva in play. So I decided to go with the Symbiote for some tech to protect my my creatures some better than Sylvan Safekeeper. So I play a Forest at the top. It's weird, Woodfall Primus pops back up again, but that's okay. I get in for 4. I decide not to send the Corruptor because I want to have it to be able to bounce with the Symbiote. He does not take the 2 for 1, and now I Strip Mine his Tranquil Thicket, and I know he's going to dredge Life in the Loam. My plan is to try to make it so costly for him to dredge Life in the Loam that he will not do so. So 10 mana. And Priest makes 1, 2, 3, 4 currently. Terastodon. I targeted his 3 forests, and before I had even selected the 3rd one, he scoops it up. And this is really an example of knowing how to mulligan and knowing that taking the 8 off Sylvan Library is usually the correct call. Because if you remember, I only took 8 twice. It put me to the 24. He never attacked me. I took 8 the first time, and then I found the line to play the Oracle of Moldiah. After I played Oracle, I didn't need to pay the 8 because I got 2 lands off Oracle twice. So Oracle plus Sylvan effectively drew me 4 cards, albeit all of them lands, that were put into play over 2 turns. So Sylvan Library drew me 2 the first turn, an extra 2 the first turn, and then the next turn Oracle was deployed, and I drew 2 off that. And then the next turn I had 2 more lands, I drew 2 off that, and then I paid an additional 8 and drew 2. So over the course of this game, Sylvan Library effectively drew me 8 cards, although I only paid for 4 of them because of the interaction between these 2 cards. But when you are behind the 8 ball after mulliganing and your opponent kept 7, albeit he's not really playing a commander that punishes me very quickly for mulliganing, but when you're behind the 8 ball, it's generally correct to just take Sylvan Library hits until you can either shuffle your library or get those cards off the top of your library in some manner, because people say, oh, Sylvan Library's dig, but then I play it in my deck so I can dig to answers, and then they never take 8. If you don't take 8 every time, you're never digging deeper. You only dig 3 deep, and then the next time, because you put 2 back, you're only seeing 1 new card. You want to see as many new cards as possible with Sylvan every single time, and generally taking 8 might be like increase the clock that you're under, but if you don't increase the clock, you're just giving them more turns to do something, and it's generally better to increase your clock, but get to your answer quicker before they can have more turns to untap and present you with a threat on a different angle. So, I wanted to upload this game. It was kind of a blowout here at the end. Sayasa doesn't really interact with my board state at all, and when you can't interact with the mono green ramp deck, the person who's drawing more cards is generally going to be the person who wins. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm working on a primer / deck tech for Yisan right now. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes if possible. I know my Vendilion click got a little long. I talked forever on it, but I might make it into a two-parter. Do a brief deck tech and then a strategy deck tech. That's this strict chain that you go with Yisan. I've talked about it in a few games, so I might not even do that, but let me guys know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, favorite, comment, point out any misplays that I had. If I did, I'd love to be able to improve my game. Have a good one, guys. See you again.